We are a little bit late with our February wrap up, but better late than never. We read a bunch of great books, so today we're going to go over every single book that we read in February. I think it was a really good month for us quality wise, but I for sure didn't read as many books as I wanted, but I'm not going to be mad at myself because February was a little bit shorter.
We did do a few reading vlogs this month, so you have seen our thoughts on some of these if you watch those videos. But up first, I have Love Redesigns by Lauren Asher. This is the first book in the Lakefront Billionaires. Am I matching with this?
You are!
So cute! This cover is everything. I was so excited to get into this book, but I'll be honest, I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. I really just never fully connected with the story, and I think I just need to accept that second chance romance books, they're just not going to do it for me. I've tried giving it multiple chances, and it just doesn't entertain me. So that was really my only main issue with this book, because I liked everyone. I liked the storyline. I liked the characters. I just didn't like the romance. I didn't feel anything for them. But I know that the second book does have tropes that I like more, so I am interested in reading that one, and that one is Pink. So I think I am going to continue the series. I mean, I know that I like the fine print by this author, so I know there's books that I will enjoy. I just think this one wasn't for me. I did end up giving this a 3 stars, so.
Up first, I have No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall. This was a mystery thriller where we're following 3 sisters that have a dark past. They kind of lose touch over the years, but they're brought back together when one of the sisters, Emma, and her husband are forced to move back into her childhood home, the house where their parents were brutally murdered. I did have a really fun time with this one. Anytime I pick up a book by this author, I know I'm going to be fully entranced from start to finish. I will say the ending to this book was a little bit predictable, but it didn't take away from my reading experience. I really loved seeing how the story was leading up to it. I thought it was a really solid story. I gave it 4 stars, and I can't wait to read more by this author.
Next I have X's and O's by Amy Lee. What a surprise this one was. I really didn't think I was gonna like this one because I actually read the first book in this series called Set on You, and that one was a solid read. Nothing really special stuck out to me in that one, so I really didn't think I was gonna love this one the way that I did, but this was a lot of fun. We're following Tara, and she is such a book girly, and basically she's just trying to get her own second chance romance. So she's going through all of her exes from like middle school, elementary school, and seeing if she can rekindle something. But then she has this new roommate, Trevor, and he's a firefighter, and he's friends with like the guy from the first book, and he's like a ladies man, and he's basically just trying to help Tara with this project of hers. But of course things end up changing with time, and it's just so cute. I think I did like this one just because it was like anti second chance romance. I also loved all of the Bachelor and Taylor Swift references. This was just a really fun, fast-paced read. So if you're looking for something like that, I definitely recommend this one. I ended up giving it 4 stars.
I finally read Jade City by Fonda Lee. In this world, K-Con is the home of this special magical jade. This jade gives its user magical abilities, and it's the lifeblood of this island. I put off reading this book for so long. The anticipation was so built up, and I don't know that it quite lived up to my expectations for it. I'm not exactly sure what about the storytelling I didn't connect with, but I honestly wasn't invested for most of the book. It wasn't until about 50% in that I thought it actually started picking up and getting interesting. This story is told in 3rd person, and we're following all 4 of the siblings an equal amount of time. I don't know if maybe since there wasn't one single protagonist that I could connect to, maybe that's where the disconnect started for me. I'm not too sure. I do know though, I love the world, I love the jade and the abilities and reading about the politics of it all. There was just nothing for me to really latch on to, so I was kind of just watching the story happen instead of feeling like I was part of it. I can definitely see why it's some people's favorite like book and series. I don't know, it was a little bit disappointing just because I thought it was going to be a 5-star read for me. I ended up giving it a 3.5.
So up next we have Powerless by Lauren Roberts, one of my most anticipated reads of this whole year. This book is about Peyton, who isn't ordinary, but she pretends to be an elite, and she poses as a psychic so that her true identity isn't exposed. But when Peyton saves the prince, she actually finds herself in the purging trials, which is a deadly competition that showcases the elite's powers, which Peyton does not have. I was surprised to see so many people were kind of iffy about it, but I do understand because there were a lot of times that it reminded me of the Hunger Games or just a lot of other things, but I was able to quickly get over that. I feel like the whole time I could easily imagine every single thing that was going down. I think the banter between Peyton and Kai was so cute. I loved the slow burn of it, and I typically don't like slow burn romances, but I'm fully invested into this story, so I will definitely be continuing on with this series. series. I ended up giving this one a 4.5 stars.
I give it a 4.25. This was a fun one that we were able to buddy read together. Up next, I have Rouge by Mona Awad. This was a horror-tinted gothic fairy tale about a lonely woman whose mother's unexpected death sends her down a dangerous path in pursuit of youth and beauty. This story was super twisted and absurd, but absolutely brilliant. It covered the complexities of mother-daughter relationships, grief, trauma, and the negatives of the beauty industry. Every time I read a book by Mona Awad, it feels like a fever dream, but in the best way possible. I ended up really enjoying this one. I gave it a 4.5, and it's one that I'm thinking about constantly.
So I did end up finishing the Selection series by Kira Cass, which is actually so sad. I was a little worried going into the air because this does follow someone else than we've been following this whole time, and I wasn't sure if I was going to fully love this character like I love our other main character, and there was like a huge time jump, and I wasn't sure, but I really did like it. We end up following Edalyn, and she gets her own selection, and the selections are basically like the Bachelor and Bachelorette, but for a prince and a princess. And this one was honestly just as fun as the first one, and I was so happy that we got to see so many of the past characters from the original books. And then I read The Crown, which is the last book in the whole series, and it was so good, but I honestly wasn't expecting Edalyn to pick who she picked. And it wasn't that I didn't even like the guy that she picked, I just didn't feel like any kind of connection. I feel like they kind of just rushed it in the end, like she's got to pick somebody, so let's just pick this one. And I just wish that we got to see more of like a little romance between them. But the series was really good, and I'm gonna miss this world and this whole universe, and I really feel like so much more could be written in this world. I think for the whole series I'm gonna give it a 4 stars, so highly recommend.
Up next, I have In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a memoir about her experience in a long-term abusive queer relationship. This was truly one of the most unique and innovative pieces of writing I've ever read. Not only is her writing style already poetic and raw, but in this book she decided to separate each chapter into a different excerpt, and each section is written in a different writing style and in a different genre, yet it's still telling one story. So it's showing you all of her experiences and trauma in a bunch of different angles. It's mind-blowing the way she was able to put this together. It's just so genius and sad and impactful. This one will definitely stay with me. I highly recommend if you're into memoirs. This is another author that I can't wait to read more of.
Next I have Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the second book in the Maple Hill series, and I really enjoyed this one. I thought this was a super cute romance story, and I loved the idea of our two main characters being camp counselors. I adored Aurora and Russ's relationship. They were so cute, and I loved that again we got to see so many past characters from Icebreaker. But I will say that I definitely liked the first half more. I think the second half got a little bit dragged out and kind of repetitive, but it was still a really good read. I gave it a 3.75, and I will definitely be continuing on with this series.
Up next, I read Starling House by Alex E. Haro. In this one, we're following Opal as she's struggling to try to free her and her little brother from this small town. The town of Eden blames its bad luck on a 19th century author named Eleanor Starling, who was rumored to have murdered her husband and used his money to build Starling House. So when Opal accepts a housekeeping job at Starling House, the property secrets start to resurface. This book was not at all what I was expecting. It was spooky and interesting. It would be a perfect October book. It definitely went a route I was not expecting, but I think that's what added to the fun. I gave it a 3.75.
Next I have Saint by Adrienne Young. I'm so happy I finally read this one because this one was actually one of my most anticipated reads of last year. Didn't get to it, but that's okay because I got to it early this year. So in this one we're following Saint, and he is actually Fable's dad from the Fable duology, which we absolutely loved, and Saint was quite the character in those books. So it was really fun going back in time and seeing how he was when he was younger and how he met Fable's mom. Adrienne Young just always writes in such a way that has me super immersed in everything that she creates. But the ending was so good and so unexpected, and I just had a really fun time reading this. I ended up giving it a 4 stars. So good. I'm so sad to be done with it. And this is another one that I feel like I could read so many more stories in this universe.
Up next, I have Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. This is the sequel to One Dark Window. It picks up right where book 1 ends, and it was just as entertaining. We do follow the same 2 POVs as book 1 with the addition of another character, so I thought that was a really fun addition to the story. We were able to learn more about that character and get a new romance. This also had a very satisfying ending. I gave this book a 4.5 star, and it's definitely made it to one of my favorite duets that I've ever read. So highly recommend. This is one of those books that deserves a hype.
So I did end up reading The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. I'm so happy to have finally read a Jasmine Guillory book just because I have a little collection growing on my shelf of her stories. I did like the characters together. I did like the overall romance, but I just wish this story was spaced out a little bit differently. I was shocked to see like that the actual wedding happens really early on in the story, and I feel like because it happened so early on, the rest of the book just kind of drags out, had a lot of repetition and miscommunication that I don't ever enjoy reading about. But it was still a good story, still a solid read, and I would still recommend it. I gave it a 3.5.
Up next, we have Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. This was our Literal Besties Book Club book for February. In this book, we're following two serial killers who kill other serial killers, and we watch a romance form between them. This was a little bit of a darker romance because of the graphic murder scenes. I did read this one in one of our vlogs, so you guys have heard my in-depth thoughts on it. I did enjoy the overall book. I thought the characters were really cute together. The banter was cute to read about. However, I did think the characters lacked a lot of depth, and that was something that was really bothering me throughout the whole book. I did like it overall. It was a fun one to read with the book club. I ended up giving it a 3.25, and I would be interested in reading the next one now that I know what to expect from it.
I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars. I thought it was a solid, fun read. The audiobook was actually one of the best that I've read. It was like a full-on movie. This was a really fun one to read with you guys. It was a lot of fun just seeing y'all's reactions throughout the whole book. Another great book club book. In March, we're going to be reading Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, so definitely join if you want to. The link for that will be in the description. The last one I have was actually my February blind book of the month, which was The Love of My Life by Rosie Walsh. This was a very interesting read. It took a little while for me to get into this one. So in this one, we have Emma and Leo. They are a married couple. They have a dog. They have a kid, and life has been great for them. And then one day, Leo realizes that Emma actually isn't at all who she says she is, and he feels like he actually doesn't even know her. But I think the first half was just a little slow for me. I was ready to see like, come on, what is she hiding? And we didn't really get that until like the second half of the book. And once we got to that, I was really interested, and I wasn't at all expecting what Emma was hiding, and I enjoyed reading it all come to light. But the ending did feel a little bit rushed to me, but I did enjoy the overall story. And I've heard that Amy Adams is actually working on a adaptation for this book, so that is definitely something I will be watching. But I gave this a 3.5, so solid read.
So that is everything we read for February. I think it was a pretty good month. I gave a lot of 4 stars out. I had a good time with all of these books. Let us know in the comments what your favorite read of February was. We have some exciting videos coming out. We're finally going to be reorganizing our bookshelves, and we're going to do a physical TBR video, so that should be crazy and insane. Make sure to keep an eye out for those. Also, make sure to join that book club if you haven't already. It's free to join, and we're really excited for the book for March. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. We will see you guys next time.